Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Kenny Conversation, brought to you by Jags, the leader in high performance aftermarket car parts. Remember to go to jags.com for everything you need. And they are telling me right now that they got Jeep parts and truck parts for you to get. All right, you're looking at him. I've been working on this man for 2 years. My friend, my friend Denny Hamlin been playing hard to get with the Herminator. How you do? How you doing, Danny?
Doing good. Doing good. I feel like we've already had our Kenny conversation through social media with our back and forth here and there. So
Well, let me just say this before we get started. I've enjoyed you my whole life. We've spent some time in Vegas on the roulette table when you were just a rookie. I've watched you come along. I knew you were a badass driver running those flat tracks through Virginia, and it sure has been a joy for me to know you. I think that's why I'm a big Denny Hamlin fan. So it's been a joy for me to watch you the last 20 years. And can you believe time has gone this quick? I mean, remember when me and you was racing, going through turns 3 and 4 at Phoenix, and you were running that baby up by the wall, and you were digging.
I know it's hard to believe it's been 20 years. I mean, that's realistically, it's been truly 20 years since my first time in Xfinity and back in 2004 and 2005. So yeah, gosh, it's just time flies. It just seems like not long ago that I was, just trying to make my way through the ranks and, didn't find myself in the Xfinity series back in 2005. And then I only got to spend really 3/4 of a year there before, JGR just kind of moved me up much quicker than what I was, expecting or hoping.
Yeah, well, and they did that, and then this is me saying this. They did that because you have a God-gifted talent. Some people have to work to be a race car driver, and you were gifted it. Did you? Who knew first that you were going to be good? Was it your mom, dad, any of your friends around you? I mean, you were
Well,
pretty good.
I mean, I think any kid that's trying to grow up and do this, right? I think their parents are always going to be biased and believe that they're good, right? And they're going to support their kid no matter how good or mediocre they might be. They're going to support it, right? They're encourage them to keep going. But I think that the moment turned for me when my mom actually started coming to more of my go-kart races when I was younger. And then they had a powder puff night.
Oh
And the
yeah,
moment that she got on the go-kart herself and experienced it, like that fueled her passion for racing. And then I remember from that point on, my mom always then went into Richmond International Raceway and started getting season tickets that she still holds today. So that's been, 35 straight years she's been a season ticket holder at RIR. And, it was that moment in which I was 5 or 6 years old. My parents took me to a race. It was actually to an Xfinity or Busch Series race. I think you might have actually won my very first race I went to in the
I
eight,
did.
in the 8 car. I
Yes,
can't
yes.
remember, but it was like 85 or 86 or 87, somewhere in that range. And I just feel like my passion for racing started at that moment. This minute I smelled the tires and the fuel and the burning rubber going by, I was hooked on racing.
Yeah, and I want to talk about your mom and dad and where you were born. I got some pretty good notes, but you just made me think of an audible that I want to call. We have a lot of data now in NASCAR, whether it's Dartfish or you drivers able to lay over what you're doing with the gas, the brakes, and I always saw what made Jeff Gordon so great, and I always say it's kind of like playing the piano, right? It's the gas, the brake, the steering wheel, all that, and in timing. So I want you to tell me when you look at all this, and I asked John Force this, what do you have, Denny, that other drivers don't? Where when your car's right, you make speed. You seem to be fast when that car is close. What do you see in your driving traces that you have that other drivers don't have?
It's just such a hard question because I think the way that maybe you and the outside public fans of mine might see things that they think that, I've just been able to do this at a high level all the time. I think I was very average on talent. I just think I worked really, really, really hard to get better. Um, you can agree or disagree with that, and I can see both sides of the argument, but I just know that when I typically put more work into being better, and it didn't always come from data or analytics, right? We that just came around in NASCAR in the upper ranks, um, really in a big way over the last 5 to 6 years. But before that, I mean, I would study some of the best short trackers in the Mid Atlantic: Eddie Johnson, Phil Warren, Wayne Patterson, Roy Hendrick, just some of the best that I watched their techniques on the short tracks. And I'm like noticing, okay, what makes Eddie Johnson great is that he saves his tires.
Mm.
What makes Phil Warren great is he's a great qualifier. I mean, I just took little things from all that, and I saw that, wow, this guy, when he starts to be really fast in a run, it's because he's rolling center a little bit faster than the other guy. And so then I started putting an emphasis when I start driving on how can I increase my center roll speed just a little bit, right? And that's going to carry all the way down the straightaway. So I just feel like I wasn't always really, really fast, but I worked my way into it because I became a student of the game. And I think that sometimes I think there are far more talented drivers out there in the Cup Series than me that have far less wins. But what are they doing to increase their craft and make it better? Some will be limited by their work ethic. Some will be limited, by time. They just don't want to put the time in to do it. And that goes a little bit into work ethic. And then some will not have the opportunity to be in a top-notch ride like I've been part of for the last 20 years. So I think there's a lot of me's out there that we probably will never see or hear from.
I really like what you said. I want to comment on that. What you said is you're not naturally talented, that you worked extremely hard at it. It reminds me of the rock group Aerosmith. I have a good friend named Brad Whitfield, who's the acoustic player. They say, Joe Perry's another Jeff Gordon. He knows how to play the damn guitar. But Brad Whitfield went to school for it.
Mm.
And but they're both with the greatest rock and roll band in America, which is Aerosmith. So thank you for telling me that, because that makes me feel a little bit better about myself. I know that what you're saying is that, if I study my craft a little bit harder, if I, my guy back in the day was Butch Lindley.
Mm.
He didn't use much brake, and that was the big thing.
Yeah.
He was famous for not using the brake pedal and just hauling ass,
And what's interesting about in NASCAR, right? I've been part of the Cup Series now for 20 years. I've had to go through generations of cars, right? From generation 4 to what we have now. And they went from running 900 and some horsepower with low downforce to now very little horsepower, 650 and higher downforce, right? And more tire grip. So I've had to evolve my style as we've had different cars. And I think what's helped me with the next gen in particular is my short track background of late model stocks, where we didn't have a ton of power in those engines, right? It was about center roll speed. What do I need to do to get that center roll speed? That really helped me adapt to this next gen. It seemed like better. My style of saving tires was beneficial for the previous generation car that had a ton of horsepower that you would blow the rear tires off of it. So I just experience that I gained through the local short tracks helped in every generation car that we've run so far.
Yeah. Thanks for spending that time with me. I had to get that out of my head, just because I feel like you're one of those drivers. It's burnt into my brain going into the old turn 3 at Phoenix and watching you not try to run that yellow line. I was always focused on getting down to that yellow line, and you let the front of that car go. And all I could do was stay behind you. We'd come off the corner and I'd be right behind you again. And I'm like, I'm running low, I'm making speed, but he's exiting better than me. And that moment, is what made me think he's special. He's got it. And just wanted to share that with everybody. So thank you for that. Okay.
Yeah, man.
Let's start the interview now. Or as I say, a conversation. All right. This is a fun one, so hang with me. James Dennis Allen Hamlin. Okay, what's your real name?
None of the above. It's Denny.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'll see you floating around on Facebook, and I don't know if it's a fake one. It says James. I'm like,
Oh, that's me. Yeah.
that's really you?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to have to follow you now.
I know. So my dad is Dennis Allen Hamlin.
Okay.
And James was a name that has been passed down in the Hamlin family for generations. And his dad's name was Junior. And so I was the next one to need to get James put in my name because my parents didn't know. And at the time there were no other Hamlins with the name James going in the next generation. So
the James gang.
He says, I want him to be, Dennis Hamlin Jr., but I got to put James in there. So I'll just put James Dennis Allen Hamlin. So I'm not actually a junior to my dad, even though he'll say he's Big Denny, I'm Little Denny.
Yeah.
But yeah, James is just a family name that's been passed down. And actually it's in my oldest daughter's middle name. She's Taylor James Hamlin.
Oh man.
Speaking of which, there's my youngest here.
Oh, hi, sweetheart. I love you.
What?
Inside is the one hand cartwheel.
That's really good. Can I finish this interview?
Can I show you?
After this.
Fine.
Okay.
She's the greatest. Oh, I love your kids. And that Taylor TV, I haven't seen it in a while. That Taylor, listen, that was awesome. I mean, she'd be there all day long with you, make me happy. I have grandbabies now. But your daughter, Taylor, I really think she's going to be a superstar. Yeah. I think she's going all the way to be an actor or an actress. And I think you're going to be the best too. And I really think that you are. I think you and your sister are going to be together. And you're going to be in movies.
Well, I tell you, Taylor loves Broadway. I mean, I think that, her voice and her acting and things like that, she's really working extremely hard on. She does voice lessons and acting lessons and things like that. And I think Broadway is where she would like to go in the long term. Molly's still following her footsteps, like she's wanting to do with whatever Big Sister's doing right now. So
yeah,
but they're they are very different in their personalities and whatnot. But it's a joy to raise kids. And obviously, I was very overwhelmed when I found out that I was going to have my very first one. I was very nervous, hey, can I do this or not? But I tell you, it's as good as it gets.
Well, she listen, I've done 60 something of these, and that right there is the sweetest thing that's happened just because I have followed you, your wife, everybody on Instagram and just watching Taylor. It was Taylor TV, and I don't see Taylor TV anymore. I'd like to see it brought back.
She's coming back with her own YouTube channel now. She's into makeup and all that stuff. So it's like, come on, you're 11. You're not 16, 17.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, we're gonna keep having a little fun here before we get hardcore. Ostrachinophobia. You have a fear of shellfish. Yes?
I mean, it's difficult to say. I don't like seafood. I'll tell you that. I've had a few episodes of like an allergic reaction if I go to a seafood and steakhouse. So it's like,
wow.
I don't know if it's because, utensils or I don't know. I've only had a few episodes where it's really happened, but I really feel like I just don't like fish. I don't like the texture of it. I don't like the smell of it. And I certainly don't like eating it.
And I can only imagine the only reason you would go to one of these places is if Coca-Cola or Toyota, like, Danny, we got a nice restaurant for you tonight. And you're like, where the hell are we going?
Show me the meat. Bring me the cows.
Yeah, right. Okay. So a couple more things here. Born in Tampa, Florida. That caught me off guard. Moved to Virginia at 2 years old. Tell me that story. Why were you in Florida and how did you end up moving to Virginia?
It was my dad's job. So he worked at Great Dane Trailers, tractor trailers. He was the service manager. He worked there for 20 some years, and his job just relocated. So he, after my parents had me, I was born in Tampa, Florida, there right in Brandon, and moved up to Virginia, which was where I was raised for 20 years. I stayed there until I was 23, 24 years old. And then once I signed my deal with Joe Gibbs Racing, then I moved to North Carolina. So I've actually been in Carolina now the same amount of time that I was raised in Virginia. So it just was through my dad's work. He had family that was from the Roanoke area, the Stanton area. So he just wanted to relocate.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, I do this with all the superstars, and you're going to love me for it. And I tell everybody the same thing. Big brother Rusty, he said, Herman, it's sad to say you've got to remind people because they remember what they want to. So I'm going to remind everybody how great you are, and then we're going to talk about it. So Denny Hamlin, 43 years old now, 20 years in NASCAR. That's insane. 845 NASCAR starts in totality. Here's the big boys now. 54 Cup wins, 18 Xfinity wins, 2 Craftsman Truck Series wins. So you're part of a rare group that's done it all. Man, I'll tell you what, this one gives me goosebumps. 3-time Daytona 500 winner, 2016, 2019, 2020. 2015 Sprint All-Star winner. This one, they just keep getting better. So this next one is thought of as if you win one race here, you're a driver. You won the Darlington Southern 500 3 times, 2010, 17, and 20. No wonder Joe Gibbs loves you. 2022 Coca-Cola 600 winner. Then you fell in love with Daytona. Busch Light Clash winner, 2006, 2014, 2016, 2024. This one here is a hidden gem. First NASCAR Cup rookie to ever qualify for the NASCAR Cup playoffs. So you were a rookie and immediately made the playoffs. We're coming to the end, and there's more, but we had to cut them off because they were rolling off the page. You and Kyle Larson. One of NASCAR's 75 greatest NASCAR drivers. And then I say this, automatic NASCAR Hall of Famer. Now, as I was rolling through that, I asked everybody the same. What was going through your mind as I was telling you all that?
I think about the ones that got away.
They all say the same thing.
I know. It's crazy. We do not celebrate our own accomplishments. We usually only celebrate our kids' accomplishments or our friends' accomplishments. We rarely take time to really sit back and enjoy what we've accomplished ourselves. I'm very, very guilty of that. If I go and win this weekend, I'm going to be over it by Tuesday, and I'm going to be thinking about, well, how am I going to win Indy the following week? So I think that's kind of retirement is a time to really kind of reflect on those things for me. I really care about packing up the stat column now. Like, I want to continue to build that resume that you just read there. I mean, that means a lot to me.
Yeah.
I look at my name or my face on the trophy for the Southern 500, and I see the greats of all time. I feel like I don't belong on that trophy. So it's surreal to me that I've accomplished what I have in the sport. I just haven't sat down and really enjoyed them quite yet, which is a shame because I know that's part of why I work so hard to do this and do this at a high level is because you want to accomplish these things and then enjoy those accomplishments. But I'm probably too big of a, asshole, like I said on my podcast, when it comes to competition. This one's not good enough. I need another, and I need another. And so I certainly feel like it's maybe a character flaw within me that I need to enjoy things a little more.
I enjoy being around you, Are you a prick? I mean, are you mean? I don't know that side
No,
of you.
I can tell you that. Ask any fan that's been to a NASCAR race. I'm
Yeah.
usually the last person to driver intros because I'm signing autographs the longest.
Yeah.
I try to do my best to accommodate fans that come to racetracks. If I see someone wearing my gear, if I am not late to somewhere, I will stop and sign for them or say hello to them. The rivalry that I have with the fans kind of at the moment or the last year or so has more just been spirit of the game, right? And sometimes you need some self-motivation to push yourself to the next level. And when we watch documentaries like Michael's Last Dance, the things he would make up in his own head that people said about him that wasn't actually true, but he used that as motivation to push himself harder. I feel like I do that sometimes with the race fans.
Thank you, because that's getting ready where I'm going. And I love it that you said it. That way we can have fun with it. I had this question. You have 3 wins this year. How are things going on the competitive side? But let's talk about that in a minute. So Darrell Waltrip once said he became more famous for his voice on the Cars movie than his NASCAR accomplishments, and it bothered him. Uh, so actions detrimental with Jared Allen. This is I mean, you're over here. You're a Hall of Famer, but this action's detrimental. I mean, has changed the trajectory of you. Well, let's just talk about it.
Yeah.
How the hell did this start? And it's become bigger than the sport now. The actions detrimental has.
Well, I think that Dale Jr. saw that I was always making headlines when it came to my media availability each and every weekend, right? There was always hot topics. It was safety, it was this, it was that, it was the next gen and competition, all this stuff. And what you would see was be like little snippets of these articles of maybe one quote of one line of what I said, and it wasn't the full context of what I was talking about. And he's like, man, I understand you because I know what you're saying, but I don't think the fan understands you. And I think you need to have a forum and a platform to explain. And you need more time. You need more than 20 minutes to do that, right? When you need to talk about hot topics in the sport. And so he finally twisted my arm enough to do it, right? I'm like, all right, well, tell me the obligation. How much how much effort am I going to have to put into this thing? He's like, listen, we're going to have it all, set up for you. Highlights will be on your phone. As soon as the race is over, we're going to have all the drivers' comments, all that. So you can be up to date with what's going on. And I says, all right, I can do that. So, we're a year and a half into it now. And certainly it has changed the dynamic, right? I feel like certainly my voice has some weight within the sport. NASCAR listens. They listen to you as well, right? People don't think they do, but NASCAR listens to what's on social media. And so I always said my show is not a fact-based show. Mine is an opinion-based show, right? I'm going to give you my opinion of whatever the topic might be. I get paid to talk about the hot topics in the sport. I need to comment on things that sometimes are uncomfortable for me to have to comment on because there's a conflict of interest. So, but that's what I get paid to do. So I'm not speaking out just because I want my voice heard. I'm speaking out because that's my job. And I think that it's actually giving me, and we're starting to see now, other opportunities in the media beyond what we're doing now. And I think that, I certainly feel like there's three major jobs that I have, right? I have the driver, Denny Hamlin. I have the car owner, Denny Hamlin, and I have the media member, Denny Hamlin, right? The one that talks about what we see on Sundays. But those are 3 things that I love doing. I love running the race team. I love putting the pieces of this, monopoly together to figure out how am I going to create a championship caliber team? How am I going to move these pieces around? How am I going to spend my money correctly to make this happen? I enjoy the work that it takes to be good on the racetrack. And I also enjoy talking about the sport. And so I'm myself and NASCAR are closer than what people think we are. People think that we butt heads, but I have a good relationship with those people. And I told them when I did have a sit down with them when maybe they didn't like necessarily what I says, let me tell you something. I says, my podcast is a good thing for the sport. And 80% of the time, you're going to like what I say, but there's going to be 20%, you're going to fucking hate it.
Yeah, and they're not perfect.
But you're going to have to be the big boys. You are the league.
Yes.
You're going to have to put up with that criticism because people tune in because of the honesty that they know I'm going to give. The minute I start converting and just petting NASCAR's back and saying, oh, they did great, 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 the legitimacy goes away and people will stop tuning in.
One thing that I like that I had wrote down here is I think it is, but do you find it helpful to right a wrong? So in other words, when I watch Dirty Mo, and I love I love everything you all are doing there, but one of my favorite things in life right now is when we know what happened 15 years ago, but nobody talks about it. And I see on Dirty Mo Media right now, and I see you do it. I see people like you and Dale Jr. and some of the guests, they're righting a wrong. It's kind of like now people going, oh yeah, this is what happened back then. And everybody's like, holy crap. Why didn't you all say that back then? And I think your show, Actions Detrimental, do you find it helpful right now to go, no, this is what happened today? Yeah. You are able to right a wrong immediately.
I would say it goes back to 80-20. 80% of the time, yes. 20% of the time, I dig myself a deeper hole.
I'm never going to get out of this.
So I think that certainly it's more positive in that aspect than not. But, listen, I'm going to make mistakes on the racetrack just like the next guy. And for me to be able to publicly speak on it right away when it's like, probably screwed up there. It's better than letting the fans simmer on it for 7 days until I have my media session at the next racetrack. So it is helpful in that sense.
I go past it. You go past these little town churches and they always have some type of Bible verse or something they dreamed up. And it says, you don't have to comment on everything. And I'm like, well, I do. So,
urge just like,
yeah. Exactly right. Sorry, God, but gotta say this or else, Dale Jr., I read an article and he was very grateful that you're doing Actions Detrimental, but he also believed, he said when I read it, he said, he feels like one day you're going to go off and do your own deal, but as of right now, would you please do this deal? So where is Denny Hamlin? Are you going to make him pay you enough money to keep doing what you're doing? Or one day, are you going to start your own Dirty Mo Media?
I'm not really sure. I don't know what the future is going to bring. I mean, I don't know that I'm with those guys through the end of this year, and then we'll figure out something from there. But I mean, I'm very grateful for the opportunity that Mike Davis and Dale Jr. have given me with that platform. They, from the very beginning, they've said, this is your podcast, right? If you ever want to go do your own thing, it's your podcast, right? We just want to help distribute it and whatnot. And they've done me a very, very solid job. And I've been very happy with that. Where it transitions to in the future, I don't know. I think that it has spurred some conversations with, current TV partners and things like that of, what happens when I'm done racing, what happens, what can they do with me while I'm racing? And so it certainly has given me the opportunity to grow my brand far beyond being just the race car driver. And I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah. And one thing I want to comment, and this is something I started doing now on Kenny Conversations. I like to comment. One thing I learned from you is you're very analytical. You're very smart. You're not just a race car driver. And I'd like to say thank you, because it gave me a look inside of you. You're smart. And I really like the show. I think it's fantastic. And like you said, there's no doubt in my mind, NASCAR is in a better spot because of actions detrimental. And one more thing, I never knew, but that Mike Davies, he's the key behind all this stuff. I guess Junior's just kind of his partner, but this Mike Davies, he's a brilliant mind, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the quarterback of it, no doubt about it, or maybe the head coach of it. I don't know how you want to speak to it, but I think that he has. I mean, they've brought on obviously Jeff Gluck and Jordan Bianchi in the teardown, right? They brought them in at the beginning of this year, so they pretty much got every day of the week kind of blocked off, right? And that was one of the things that I was adamant to them when we started this. I says, I want to be the first out. I want to be the first one out right afterwards. They're like, well, to do that, you're going to have to do it right after the race, or you're going to have to do it Monday morning. And I'm like, all right, I think I can handle that. But yeah, they've done a great job with their media company. And I think, it doesn't happen without the support of Dale Jr. I think he is the rock that brings the legitimacy to that. Right. And so it's just, he's got the other things like DVC and others that help support Dale Jr. and his platform. And so I'm just part of the branches on this tree.
Yeah, just a couple more things, and I'll quit wearing this subject out, but I just think it's kind of reinvented you. Dale Jr. is a brilliant mind too. He's very smart, very analytical. I think you two are, if you're different, that's fine, but you both are kind of like-minded. You really a good study of the sport. Just wanted to add that in there. So let's move on. I don't know if you were always like this. I don't think you were, so I'm asking the question. And you shed a little light on it already, that you are having fun with the fans. You are creating these controversies. And you know what? Kevin Harvick told me that on Kenny Conversation. He said a lot of it was a show, Herman. I said, well, I'll be damned. Good job. So you're not the first, because Harvick shocked me saying that. But my question is this. You are able, at the top of your game, the highest form of motorsports, you are able to tune out all controversies and go out and win. And I'm like, I'll be damned, look at him. He just went through a hurricane and he's leading the race with one to go. Where did you get that? Where did you learn that?
You have to have a really good tackle box, as my friend Greg Fernelli would say. You got to be able to put different parts of your life in different parts of your brain. And you got to be able to shut those off when it comes time to focusing on the racing. And so one thing that I can at least hang my hat on, right, is that I've never gone into a race unprepared. As much shit as I have going on, as much as it takes out of me, being the dad, the owner, the podcaster, whatever it might be, I never felt like when I got in the car, I am unprepared. So I always made sure that I set aside the proper time to prepare, to make sure that I give 100% of my best effort when I got in the car. And so, because I just never wanted to look back on my career when it's over and say, I could have got to 70, 80 wins if I would have done this. Like, I don't want to have those regrets. And so that's why I'm a workaholic like I am now, is that I just don't want to have those regrets later down the road.
Well, there's an old saying that I learned a long time ago, and I'd like to think this fits you too. You can chew gum and walk better than anybody. You're able to throw a stick of dynamite up there while it's blowing up. You're over here winning the race. You're over here winning the race. Your daughters come in, Daddy, I love you. I admire it. I like it because I kind of think that's the way I am. I feel like you're my brother. Your confidence here lately, for me, is very contagious. What do you talk to Michael Jordan about? Tell me about confidence, contagious Michael Jordan. I mean, I cannot even say Michael Jordan and just slide by it. I'm thinking like the greatest athlete of all time. Mm-hmm. What do you talk to Michael about confidence and being, it seems like it's rolled down to you is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if confidence wins championships, I would have been a multi-time champion long time ago.
You're a champion. Yeah. Championships are meant to be.
I know. So especially in this stupid ass format. But
Right.
but anyhow, I just feel like he's always been such a big supporter of mine. And I mean, you can go back to video of him, coming to Homestead when I've been part of the championship battle for years and years, right? He's always attended. He's gone out of his way to support me. Now, along the way, yes, he gives me motivation, right? He says the right things to me that makes me lock in and get focused. But he also knows that it's on me to have to want it, right? I have to want it. If I don't want it as bad as it takes to win it, then it's never going to happen. And I do have it. I do want it. But sometimes the stars just don't align, right? And I think he recognizes more than ever, man, how many variables are part of the sport, right? It's just the best car. I think statistics I saw was like 30 or 40% of the time the best car and driver win on a weekly basis. We've seen it over just the last month in NASCAR. The race just are chaos, and they get turned upside down, and the guys in the back are now in the front, and just all kinds of stuff goes on. And it's like, yeah, but over the long haul, right? I feel like if I just keep putting myself in position, it will happen. And, while I've been part of Final Fours and leading the points at the end, like if I just keep knocking on the door, eventually someone's going to answer. And that was been the biggest thing that he's taught me, is just keep putting myself in position, stay focused, and, keep putting the work in. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I'm going to be just fine. As Mark Martin would say, my life is no different today than had I won the 1995 championship. Like, it just doesn't change anything.
That's true.
It changes what people may see about me. It doesn't change what I see about me.
The great Dick Trickle, the man that taught me, I got pictures of it. He would say it in that Wisconsin deal. He'd say, my boy, you gotta wanna. And I've listened to you say that 3 times just now. Michael Jordan says you gotta want it. Trickle would say, you gotta wanna. And boy, that really does separate people, because there are people that want it, but they just don't put everything into it, and they bitch and they moan, complain. I don't got this. I don't got that. I just want to say that I really like that comment. I gotta wanna. I'm shocked that Joe Gibbs. No, I take it back. I'm impressed that Joe Gibbs allows you to run that 2311 team. He must think it must be good for you. So Joe Gibbs is over here. Of course, you're winning everything. He's you are his top driver. You got the greatest sponsor. He must see that. Tell me about you and Joe Gibbs and you over there helping. I've heard good things about you. They say you're in the 2311 shop all the time.
Yeah, I am. I'm very active in it. And I mean, it started during COVID, right? It's when I had that 8 weeks off in the middle of spring, summer, and I was like, man, this is usually where we're going to the racetrack. And now I'm just sitting around at home on a Saturday and Sunday. I'm like, is this what retirement's going to be like? Because at that time I was 40 years old, 2020. And I'm like, if this is what retirement's like, I'm going to have to come up with something. I can't golf every day. So I need to come up with something. And so at the time, we knew that COVID was taking its toll on the Levine racing team. And that had an alliance with Joe Gibbs Racing. And I'm like, okay, so if somehow I can buy that team, preserve the alliance that it has with Joe Gibbs Racing, it not only will help me create a future for myself beyond driving, but I also can help create more resources and money going into JGR that's going to make my car faster. Oh. So I'm like, I need to call Toyota to see if I can make this happen. And so I did, first of all, and then I said, well, wait a minute. Let me sit down with Joe and Coy first. And I says, guys, I'm going to ask you a kind of a very serious question. I said, is there any opportunity for me to own a piece of Joe Gibbs Racing? I'm very interested in, and at the time, Joe's getting up there in age, and Coy was still there, and it was like, he's like, I don't think so. I says, I just want to know for sure, because I think I'm going to make a move. If there's no place for me to have ownership here at JGR, which I'd love to carry on the legacy that Joe Gibbs has shown me and how he runs his team, I want to make sure that you guys are okay if I do this on my own then. And I says, but I'm going to need your help.
I need your hey, let me say this. I forgot. It'll straighten me out. Actually, this 2311 team is making Joe Gibbs money because you must be giving him money.
Yes. Yeah. So that's basically how this works, right? Is that we pay them a fee, and a hefty fee every single year, to gather all the information that those 400 employees put together, right? We have roughly 100 at 2311, right? In order to have the infrastructure that JGR has, I would have to hire 200 more people. Toyota would have to give us a whole lot more money. And so instead of that, they're happy with their agreement with Joe Gibbs Racing. I says, okay, well then make me a top tier, but then help me with my alliance with JGR. And so they do that to a great amount. We're forever grateful for that. But it's a double fold, right? It helps my team be better, but also creates resources to make my 11 car faster.
Man, you just hey, is that your wife there?
No, it's actually Taylor.
Tell her to come here for a minute. Kenny, hi, good. How are you, beautiful?
Hi.
Tell me about your doggie.
This is Lulu.
Lulu, hi, Lulu.
We picked her up in St. Louis.
Oh,
we found her at the Arch, and so
I saw that.
Someone who had a litter of puppies that they were looking to
she's straightening you out,
get rid of.
She made Milo a lot better.
I saw it on Instagram or somewhere.
They dumped her out at the river. She was just 6 weeks old, and so we took her home.
Her name is Lulu River Hamlin. Her middle name is River.
Hey, Taylor, I told your dad that I've been a big fan of yours ever since you started Taylor TV. And he says that he thinks you're going to be in Broadway. Is that what you want to do? You're a great singer. I watch you sing on Instagram.
I have an audition today on Broadway today.
That is big. Do you go downtown Charlotte to do that?
No, we're doing a video audition. I was gonna do their Frozen Junior, but we missed the deadline, so I'm gonna try it for Lion King and Aladdin instead.
What's your favorite song? Just hanging out with mom and dad. What's your go-to song?
Hamilton, the Schuyler Sisters, or Burn by Fippa So.
Yeah, she loves Hamilton the musical, so yeah, that's her thing right now.
Sing me just a little bit of it real quick. I'll sing a song. I'll sing.
I have a sore throat.
Okay. Well, listen, I love you, and I'm a big fan of yours, and I know you're going to make it to Broadway, okay?
Okay, why not?
Because I got to do this interview. That's why I can't keep her.
Tired.
Hey, this is a big show.
Oh.
All right.
Oh.
All right.
I can put her in my mouth.
No, don't bite her. Well, you got to bite her ear, maybe. She's awesome.
All right.
Well, I'm a big fan of hers. Okay, so I want to say this. There's that dun 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 dun, and you're waiting for you just finished it for me. I forgot that, and I know this is kind of being a hard ass, but no reason. Now the reason I get it, Joe Gibbs. I mean, you're making him a lot of money because 2311, and you're helping make his team bigger and better. Is that right?
Yeah, actually, 2311 actually hit a milestone this weekend. They kept telling me going into this Chicago road course, they said, you're the next Toyota car in front of us in points. Tyler Reddick was right behind me. And they said, after this road course race, we should actually, we park our haulers in order of where you are in points, and Hendrick is first. And then it's Joe Gibbs Racing gets their 4 haulers. And then 2311 was next in line. He says, we're going to jump over you guys and be the head Toyota team after this week. And I'm like, good luck. And wow. So now Tyler Reddick and the 45 team is the highest Toyota team in points right now.
That is badass. And I can see Charlie right now editing this piece because I've always wondered, how Joe lets you go over there and do that. But, and I never thought about, COVID was a bad deal, but you were able to have this sneak peek in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I can't handle this.
No question. And I always knew I wanted to run another business. I thought it was going to be like another trailer shop. My dad and myself, we had a trailer shop back in the day. We had like race car trailers and not tractor trailers, but like landscape trailers. And we used to install hitches and stuff. And I loved my job. I loved it. I was a welder, fabricator. I used to be the electrician, the guy that would figure out all the wiring problems. And I was like, I want to have that business back again when I have enough money to buy one. And instead, it was like I ended up starting the race team. And it's like, all right, this is my project that I get to be a part of and build.
Speaking of what your dad, the trailer shop, did you say your dad worked for Great Dane?
He did, yeah.
Yeah, so that was a legendary name in my day. Let's change subjects just a little bit. Your dad did not want. I thought it was awesome because I thought it was a great showmanship. The fans are booing you, and you're like, you just egged them on. I'm like, yes. You're like, I beat your favorite driver, and this is like, he said, yes. He just pisses him right off. But your dad later on said, son, I don't like that. And you reported on it, but for the Kenny conversation, tell me about that. Did your dad call you or how that come down?
He did call me numerous times. And my dad's one of those guys, you don't pick up the first time, he's just going to keep calling until you. So I said, Denny, I got a problem. I'm like, what's the problem, Dad? He's like, you got to stop that shit. He's like, that's just too cocky. I'm like, I said, yeah, but Dad, it gets a rise out of the fans, and that's awesome. And he's like, yeah, I don't like it. You better stop that right now. I'm like, all right, Dad, I'm gonna listen to you on this one.
Yeah, so that's funny because I've heard the world's wealthiest man, Warren Buffett, or Elon Musk, or it's funny, isn't it, Denny? No matter how big we become, we always our childhood. They always say that the first so many months, whatever. But you are your father. I guess you are your mother. So to this day, even though you're a badass and you run the show and you got all the money, your mom and dad are still everything, aren't they?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm very close with them. I was over their house actually last night. My poor mom had to put her dog down, so I was there supporting her. But yeah, my mom and dad supported me, and they sacrificed so much. Like, when my dad worked at Great Dane Trailers, my mom worked at AAA Travel. My parents had very normal jobs. Our total household income was $100,000. They made
the pictures.
They made 50 each, right? And that was what they had. And they had a few old cars that they would go to car shows with. They had to sell all that stuff because you got to, in racing, you want to support your kid, you got to keep buying tires and engines and chassis and brakes and fenders when you rip them off. And like, it was a lot for my parents to have to support on their own. And luckily I had friends of the family that just would help pay for an engine or help pay for the damage that I had that weekend to just keep me stringing along. And so it all paid off in the end. And I'm certainly happy now that they get to enjoy the life that they deserved for so many years, right? I've paid my dad back in many, many old cars that he had to sell. He's got all those back and then some. And my mom is getting to enjoy the life that she should have deserved when she was grinding away overtime hours at AAA.
Man, she's got a badass name. It's one of my favorite names, Mary Lou. I can hear your mom's mom, Mary Lou. Get your butt in here right now.
That sounds like my dad.
I love that. I'll look at Taylor Swift and I'll see her mother following her. And I'm thinking about your mom and dad right now. There has to be that moment where Taylor Swift's mama or your dad or your mom, have they ever looked at you like they don't know who you are and say, son, I can't believe you made all this money? Have they ever said that?
Yes. Pretty often. Right. I mean, I think that it's certainly surreal to them that we're in this position. Right. And I think that, we're just grateful and I'm very grateful. I mean, yes, I have a lot of nice stuff, but man, I am still very grateful that I'm able to do this and able to provide, generational wealth for my kids, like that is big for me, because I'm working so hard right now. I've made my money in the sport. I'm good, but I'm doing this. I'm still working really, really hard for my kids and their kids and their kids. Like, it's not about me. It's about them and making sure that they're set up for success in the future.
Who's that country western singer, the great one, Garth? He told Barbara Walters on one of the great shows. He says, I have enough money for my kids. To me, that's one of the greatest.
That much, but they should be set.
It's a great highlight, though, because I watch Men That Built America and the DuPonts, and
yeah.
But anyway, I just think it's really interesting when you're, my mom and dad, they have looked at me and looked at Rusty or Mike, and they always worried about us. I just wanted to shine a little spotlight on your mom and dad. I just think it's really cool, and I see the pictures out there. We've seen them all. Okay, I want to get to the charter deal a little bit later, and I know there's some people nervous about it, and I'm not going to rough you up in any manner like that. But just a couple more things. I see 2311, your team that you and Michael Jordan own, and Bubba Wallace, Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick almost wins the race this weekend in Chicago. But I see this Corey Heim. Is he the next big thing, Corey Heim? What's your take on Corey Heim?
I think he is wise beyond his age. He is 21 years old, and he drives like he's 35.
I thought so, too. That's why I asked the question.
I see a lot of real big potential with him. His racecraft. I was 21 years old. I was bending up fenders on my mini stock. I wasn't nearly where he is, in my career at his age. But, Toyota has invested a lot of money in Corey's development. I think they're going to continue to do that, to want to see him in the Cup Series. 2311 certainly likes Corey. We got to run him at Nashville just a few weeks ago. He legitimately drove up right to the top 10. And, before he had some issues with, kind of that weather flipping the cars upside down.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I think he is someone that is going to win a ton of races and championships in NASCAR in the future.
Do you see anybody looking at Corey Day, which is like a Kyle Larson protege? This Corey Day's, Kyle Larson said to me, I said, "Oh, I don't know Corey Day." And Kyle Larson said, "Oh, you'll hear about him." And tell me about Corey Day. Do you any of you have your eyes on him?
Yeah, I think teams are interested in him. Manufacturers are probably interested in him. And a lot of that is, they trust people like Kyle Larson that says, hey, when they see someone that is very good, they trust those guys, because, Kyle Larson's got a ton of talent. If he says to a Rick Hendrick or a Chevrolet, hey, that's the next guy, they're crazy not to say, okay, we need to look in that. Like, that's what they're going to do. And so certainly I haven't kept up with Corey Day as much as others. I have seen him race. It's been ultra impressive when I have seen him. So I very similar to like a Corey Heim. I think this is a long-term play that, he'll have his development and get his shot soon enough.
Yeah, I think drivers recognize talent, just like yes. I recognized your talent at Phoenix in turns 3 and 4. and Jeff Gordon said, I recognized Jimmy Johnson's talent in turn 1 at Michigan when he said, Jeff Gordon said, I thought I went into turn 1 deep until Jimmy Johnson beat me down in the corner that one moment. And so he tells Rick Hendrick, hire Jimmy Johnson, rest is history. So
there's another story like that.
Go ahead.
We were leaving Mexico City in the Xfinity Series, and my crew chief at the time, Dave Rogers, we had just won Xfinity. He says, tell me the next you. Who's the next guy? I says, Brad Keselowski. He says,
no.
What? he said, the guy that's 6 laps down every race, I says, Brad Keselowski. I says, when we're going around to lap him, you can see he's getting every ounce of that car out that is in it, and then some. Like, for me, I think it was corners 3 and 4 at California where he was up against the wall, making time. I mean, at this time, we're probably putting him 2-3 laps down. but I just said, there's something I see that I think he's going to be very good. And a few years later, he got a shot.
Yeah. So we're going to end this like this. Toyota's going to take Corey Heim. Chevrolet is going to take Corey Day. I'm saying that. You're not saying that. Do you agree with that or not?
I think it's where they're probably going to put their resources. And again, I can't speak to Chevrolet, but I just know what Toyota has done for Corey Heim thus far, right? They've given him the opportunity in the Truck Series, and they've certainly helped us out in running him at Nashville. He's got to run a few legacy races as well this year when he was filling in. So you would think that he's part of that step stair ladder that goes to the top.
Yeah. I want to put a couple fun things in here before we talk about that charter. This rivalry between you and Kyle Larson, it's the greatest thing that's happened for NASCAR. You two are the greatest drivers of this era. Sometimes people go, boy, Kenny, everybody's great to you. I'm like, well, because I interview all the greats. Stop and think about it. So you and Kyle, tell me about you and Kyle Larson.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we've been, friends off the racetrack for a very long time. I think that our friendship was always better before we started competing for race wins against each other. I think that certainly when he got in the Hendrick number 5 car, he stepped into a top tier organization. He's finally getting that top equipment that the rest of us have got, and now he's showing what his ability is. What I've learned over time, though, is that it is very difficult to keep a friendship on the racetrack as well. And I think that you have to be able to separate those two things. And so I think that while kind of our relationship is not as close as it once was, I kind of wish it was, but I'm also okay if it isn't, because I think that we need to continue to push as much as we can to win for ourselves and our own team. If the fans lose out, if we're not able to separate those two and go out there and battle for a race win at Pocono on the last lap, like if we start, cutting each other breaks, the fans don't get the reward of that exciting finish that they deserve. So they should want us to have that rivalry on the racetrack. And then what we do off the racetrack is frankly none of their business, right? And so I think that we saw it in Dale Earnhardt, I feel like, was that way with some of his toughest rivals, right? He would go fishing or whatever with some of his toughest rivals, but he knew how to separate that on the racetrack.
I want to add something to this. This is a accurate story. I wish brother Rusty Wallace was here right now. So Rusty is trying to win the Southern 500, and he's got Bill Elliott right in front of him. And Bill Elliott is just holding Rusty up. He can't get by him. Rusty's trying to pass him nice. And Rusty's just, that Pontiac, that Kodiak, Rusty's just sawing the ass end of Bill Elliott's car right off. So Rusty runs second in the Darlington Southern 500. Well, Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Rusty get on an airplane. They fly up to the Minnesota State Fair. I'm running ASA, and I got a car for Rusty, and I'm racing. Earnhardt's with him. Earnhardt looked at Rusty and says, all you had to do is pop him in the ass. Fans would have booed you, but they'd have got over it, and you'd have won the Southern 500.
Yes. Yeah, I think that there's a lot to say about that, right? Is that a year down the road, it doesn't matter. The trophy is still sitting right there on the pedestal. they will get over it. And so I just think that social media has amplified people's opinion, right? And they feel, a lot of times you can hide anonymously on social media. So you're not afraid to really lash out, when your favorite driver doesn't win and he gets beat. But yeah, I agree with Dale Earnhardt in the sense that now I agree with your brother a little bit in the sense that, listen, he tried the art of passing. Anybody can go up there and just knock someone the hell out the way. That doesn't take much skill. Yeah, it took skill to get in a position to do it, but I appreciate the art of trying to pass someone. Now, eventually, things have changed in NASCAR. Now more than ever, it's people ain't waiting behind you anymore. They're just going to knock you out of the way, knock you up the racetrack, and move on. That's the way Dale Earnhardt did it years and years and years ago.
Stop right there, Denny. I got, this is part of the conversation. Why did Dale Earnhardt Sr. get away with, there's videos out there 24/7. Why was he able to get away with knocking the shit out of people, wrecking them, and be a hero?
Because nobody was big enough and strong enough to challenge him outside the race car. I think they were intimidated by him outside the race car. That's my opinion, is that he was intimidating on the racetrack and off the racetrack. So if you want to, if my scrawny ass were to go up to Dale Earnhardt and say, "Hey, why'd you spin me?" He'd say, "You're in my way." What am I going to say? What are we going to do about that? I can't do shit about it.
Run off.
I'll wreck him back. Then the fans will hate me and they're going to love him. But that's just part of it. He earned that spot in the sport to get that fandom. So sometimes you're just in a never win situation. And sometimes there's people in the sport that have that power to do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah. So as you know, I raced a lot and I've seen this movie, and you and I both know that somebody at Hendrick, there's a group of people, they're in Kyle Larson's ear now to wreck your ass. And I know you know that, and I don't know what's being said. Can you shed some light on that? He's already, back to Jack, and, he fooled with you a little bit in turns 1 and 2 there. What do you think is going to happen here between you and Kyle?
Well, I think we need to have an understanding. I think that the two drivers, the two crew chiefs have got to have a sit down and discuss what the rules of engagement are. I think that I have said that I'm fine with us racing each other hard for wins. I don't think I'm necessarily fine with deliberately trying to take each other out. I think that raises the stakes a little bit out of control.
Right.
I guess I'm just confused a little bit on why the group is so upset when I move up the racetrack 3 or 4 feet
for the win.
But yet this is the way, in my opinion, Kyle has made passes for a decade. And so I just don't understand why it's such a big deal now. And so, yes, I do think that he has people in his ear pressuring him, but I don't think that is necessarily going to be a positive outcome for anyone. Because, listen, we know my give a shit meter is absolutely pegged. And so I don't, if we get into this type of thing and it escalates, it's not going to be good for anyone. It won't be good for me. It's not going to be good for him. I think we just need to come together, come to an agreement on, hey, listen, we're good with racing hard for wins, but we were not deliberately try to take each other out. That's probably where we should land.
Yeah. One more question on this. First of all, I like that. I do think you guys should have a sit down, but I feel like after watching you, I'm a big fan of you guys. I love NASCAR. I feel like I'm watching. I feel like Kyle was handling it on his own. I feel like Kyle knew what was up. We're going to Pocono now, but he's on your outside. You're squeezing him for the win, and that's racing. But I feel like, I feel like they are in his ear and they want him to think what they're retaliating. So I don't think he's in control. I think he thinks he's in control, but I feel like they're in his ass.
Yeah, but I think like, again, I am fine with, if I squeeze you, you squeeze me the next time it comes back around. But changing the game is saying that, all right, I'm going in this corner to wipe you out.
Yeah, that's not. You didn't do that.
That's a total different. That's a different level, and I think it just doesn't end well for either party.
Yeah, because you'll go back and wreck him, and then neither one of you win the champion.
It just won't ever stop. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where we'll end that. It's not a good movie because you both will wreck each other, pay the fines, and you both will not win the championship. So,
right.
Well, I'm looking forward to. You probably won't make a press release about it. That's kind of a joke, but I'm hoping you guys do talk it out. And thanks for answering that. Had to talk to you about that because that's a big deal. You know, it's playing out on national TV. Okay, so I'm going to just start this charter system, and I want you to stay out of trouble. And I'm going to read this to everybody. I'm not reading this to you, Denny, but I want to read this. The RTA was created in 2015 and collaborated with NASCAR, created the Charter Agreement System, Race Team Alliance. The RTA is currently comprised of 15 race teams, which own the 36 charters in the NASCAR Cup Series. So it's everybody. Hendrick, Gibbs, Penske, RCR, Trackhouse, 2311, etc. The RTA works with team members to advance the sport of stock car racing. RTA represent the common commercial interest of its member teams. The chairman of the RTA is Rob Kaufman. Jonathan Marshall is executive director. And Jonathan, let me see, he runs the day-to-day business operations on behalf of the teams. The board of directors, now this is big. The board of directors of RTA, Jeff Gordon, Richard Petty, Jack Roush, Richard Childress, Walt Zarnicki, Penske, Joe Custer, Stuart Haas, and Heather Gibbs. The RTA works with the teams, NASCAR, the tracks, and various sponsors and partners, all on behalf of member teams. Of course, the renewal of the charter agreement is paramount issue for RTA. It's paramount. It's the biggest thing in the sport right now. In 2022, the Drivers' Council created the Drivers' Council, which is led by Jeff Burton. Okay. I laid out the rules of regulations. Mm-hmm. I read it as beautifully as I could. I did my job here.
Yep.
Okay. So we are in the fourth quarter right now of this. Next year, the charters are ending here in a minute. Where are we at right now?
Well, I'll first say this. I think that this is the single biggest agreement that has gone through our sport in a very, very long time, and it's important that it gets done. The reason that you gave kind of the history of the RTA, and I'll give you a little more to that, is that originally it was started as these race teams need to get together and find a way to have more, whether it's a common fuel card or whatever. Like, they were trying to not go and negotiate deals, commercial deals independently. We probably can get a better price if we go in independent, if we come together and negotiate fuel deals or tire deals or whatever it is for the haulers. Like, that's where it kind of started, right? Is that how can we come together and start to streamline some of our costs, help, because the cost just keeps getting higher. And, sponsorship is starting to level off. And as it went over time, sponsorship started to decline a little bit. Ratings declined with it. And the teams are the ones that felt the most pressure by that, right? There's salaries that got cut, drivers, employees, everything just started getting cut. All while there is record revenue going into our sport. So that, has brought it to the last few years where, big team owners that have been part of the sport for decades have went to Jim France and says, we need help. Like our teams are dropping like flies. Like we have championship teams, boom, out of business. Like, how can we stop this? You guys are doing really, really well. We are struggling to break even or not lose millions and millions of dollars. And so they went to Jim asking for help and received back quite simply, sorry, you cut your deal back in 2016 and you're going to live by what that deal is. And this was 5 or so years ago. They came to Jim saying, at least give us a break on our hard cards. No, ain't going to do nothing for you. Live by the deal that you cut. So that put an emphasis in my mind to us saying, we better get this deal right then, because he ain't going to come back and retrade this deal 4 years from now, right? We better get it right now. And so what we've been up against is other leagues that have locked arms and decided that they are going to lock arms with the league and then grow the sport together. NASCAR does that poorly than any other sport by far. Like, ask any sponsor that tries to come in. They say it's the most complicated sport to ever participate in because the tracks own this real estate, NASCAR owns this, the teams own that. Like, it's not homologated, I guess you could say. So we're trying to make it more simple, and we're trying to go to NASCAR and say, let's lock arms. Let's do this together. We'll give you these rights to go shop for us. That way, when you go get an official sponsor, it goes to all of us. Same as what the NBA, the NFL, MLB does. When they go get a league sponsor, every team gets a little piece of that, and then the league gets a portion as well. It's not like that. We compete for the same sponsors that NASCAR does. We have our own sponsors that NASCAR will send their own sponsorship proposal to try to get them to spend money with them. And it's like, but we need them the most because of our business model, right? It costs us $18 million a year to put a car on the racetrack. We've asked NASCAR to just cover our costs. Nothing more, just cover our costs to go put on this show for you. And the answer has been repeatedly, no. You will get what we give you, and you'll like it. And if you don't, then just don't be part of this. Now, what do you do in that instance, right? So we're banging our heads up against the wall because repeatedly, as these negotiations have gone on, there's been no negotiation, Kenny. It's been every response, every proposal they send back to us is worse than the previous. Mm-hmm. That is factual. It keeps getting worse. So when you ask me where are we at today, we are worse off than we were 2 years ago. And we are 6 months, 8 months away from the Daytona 500, and there not being any charters. So, and why the race fans should care about that is that the reason Joe Gibbs Racing and Hendrick Motorsports show up every week is because there's a charter deal. We get a payment to show up every single week. If there is no charter deal, we will pick and choose what the best paying races are, and we'll go run those races. And then some weeks you won't see us at the racetrack because maybe that race doesn't pay quite as good, or maybe we don't have a sponsor for that race.
The Wood brothers used to do that with David Pearson. They never ran all the races back in Pearson's glory days.
But that's not good, right, for the sport. You want to see your superstars on the racetrack every single week, which is why this charter agreement needs to get done. And while NASCAR needs to understand that the teams and these drivers, they are the stars and they are the cars. And that is what people come to see each and every week. If you don't believe that, then how many people go to watch an ARCA race on Friday? The cars look the same.
Yeah.
The only thing that's different is the drivers, right? They're the ones that people come to see, the stars, right? In the Hendrick Motorsports and the Joe Gibbs Racings of the world. So I wish I had better news for you, but until we see NASCAR come our way a little bit, I just don't know where this goes, right? I mean, eventually there's going to have to be some pain for somebody in this thing for there to be any sort of resolution, right? no negotiation has ever come easy. No one says, okay, that's what you want. Okay, no problem. We'll go ahead and back the Brinks truck up and we'll just drop the money off to you. It doesn't work that way. Somebody has to feel pain for somebody to budge or move. And I just think that at this point, NASCAR does not feel threatened by the teams whatsoever. I think that they feel like we are all replaceable. You can argue that offline. I have my opinions of that. But these guys helped build the sport for years and years. And when we ask for permanent charters, what we're asking for is long-term asset, something that we can sell if we ever do go out of business, right? We saw with Stewart Haas, at least they didn't leave the sport empty-handed, right? They at least got paid for their charters. That's what we're hoping to get, right? If they're not going to give us enough money to survive year to year, at least give us an asset that is worth something in the long run. You can't say no to both. That is not a fair deal. When I mentioned the three big stakeholders, the tracks, NASCAR, and the teams, there's 2/3 of this deal that is doing very, very well and 1/3 that is not doing well. That is not fair. And if you want us to lock arms and push the sport together forward, we must all be healthy.
So I'm going to ask some questions that I've learned. So it could easily, at the end of this year, charters could not exist. Doesn't NASCAR have a responsibility? Because we just watched some teams pay Gene Haas $25 million. What would happen if at the end of this year, NASCAR said charters don't exist, and they just got done paying Gene Haas $25 million? Does NASCAR have a responsibility? I mean, how could that just all go into thin air?
That's what we're trying to protect against. You're bringing up a very valid point. That's what we're trying to protect against.
It's kindergarten stuff,
I hear you, but this sport is run differently, and it unfortunately is run by someone who says, this is what's worked for 75 years and I'm not changing.
Who's that guy that bought that team, Michael McDowell team? What's that name again? I got brain fade. They just bought the charter.
Front Row.
Okay, so Gene Haas could look at Front Row right now and go, suckers, I got your money. Now you don't even have a charter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that there's probably provisions in there. Like, more than likely, Bob Jenkins put provisions in there that says, okay, this deal will go through as long as there are charters.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So
thank
you. Attorneys would never put that at risk, I would think.
It's good information.
You know what I mean? To say, okay, we will do this as long as there is a charter agreement and it's by a certain date or something. And if not, if you got to get an extension, you got to get an extension. But you can't sell something that doesn't exist. So right. I think Gene Haas wants to see this charter deal done because you can't sell something that doesn't exist, right? So
right. Okay, so we have history. I always remind people, I'm 60, you're 43, you're a baby. There are documentaries out there all day long on YouTube. This battle has been waged before. And Big Bill France said, go ahead, boys, quit. And they brought the Xfinity series in, and those guys ran at Talladega, and all hell broke loose, and it never worked. What do you think we've learned? Because obviously that business model, first of all, I want to say this. Here's my disclaimer. I love NASCAR. Yep. It made me a living.
Me too.
I'm a wealthy man because of it. So what did we learn from that back then so that it won't happen this time? Maybe, like you said, maybe just don't run all the races.
I mean, when was that? Like the 60s or 70s, right? I think it was a Talladega or something.
Yeah.
I mean, Kenny, I don't know if you've seen the Xfinity garage now, but it's a shell of what it used to be. Good luck getting those guys to go buy next-gen cars that cost a fortune.
Yeah, well, that's true.
You know what I mean? Good luck trying to get 36 next-gen cars on the racetrack if you don't have the current teams that are participating. So listen, there's too much at stake for both sides.
Yeah.
It needs to be a fair deal. It's not close to fair currently, and we just need some movement to help make it a little bit better.
Okay.
Listen, the minute there's no charter deal, you're going to have Michael Jordan being pissed because he just invested into this sport, and you got someone that's willing to just sweep it and take it all away whenever they want to. That is just ridiculous, and it shouldn't happen. And a team like 2311 that has invested significant money in this sport and helped grow it over the last 4 years deserves to have some franchise value attached to that.
Yeah. I know Jim France is going to hear about this. I had a great conversation with Ben Kennedy. My message to NASCAR, I know y'all are listening. I'm a little corny at times. I love you guys. You gave me a life. But I had to talk to Denny about this. I promised Denny I'd keep him out of trouble. It's top news. Respectfully, you cannot expect us not to talk about it. So thank you.
And we all have the same goals, and that's to grow this together.
Right.
When we met with NASCAR about this, a month ago, we're like, let's lock arms and do this. This sport is a sleeping giant if you're just willing to change. Just because it's what you did for 50, 60 years, it doesn't mean it's the right thing to do now. Every sport has evolved over time. We have got to evolve. And people like Ben Kennedy have done a great job of changing the schedule around, taking us to places like Chicago. It's been fantastic what they've done with schedule variation over the last few years. The next gen car, right? I mean, while some may like it, some may not, it's still been a net positive for our sport, and the access to be competitive is easier now than what it has been before. So we're doing a lot of good things. I just hate that we keep hanging up, and this has been a subject for a better part of 2 years, and that we just can't get a fair deal done, because if we ever can, the sport will take off, and they need the teams to be able to do that, and the teams need NASCAR. So let's get this deal done.
I want to end like this on that deal. Myself and my wife, around 10 o'clock at night, we watch a couple episodes of The Crown on Netflix, and I'm learning about the British monarchy. I'm just learning. And one of the media members was able to meet with Queen Elizabeth, and he said, "You need to show some humility." And she says, "Well, what do you mean?" And the media member said, "You need to address your people during Christmas and show that you all are normal people." And so now Queen Elizabeth, she's gone now, but she had started doing a Christmas address because show some humility. And she changed her way, and it's part of history. I think sometimes we try to stay tough because we think it's that old saying, you give them an inch, they'll take a mile.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that's what NASCAR's thinking. Okay. Thank you so much for that. Let's have fun. Let's end this on a fun note. Are you going to buy Langley? Are you going to buy Langley?
I can tell you this, my portfolio managers would say that I am heavily skewed into NASCAR way too much as it is. So
I get it. I get it.
But listen, I love short track racing. I'd love to keep Southside Speedway going. Langley Speedway is doing fantastic. They got that Hampton Heat thing.
Okay, was I wrong? Was it Southside that everybody
Southside is, that's my home track in kind of Chesterfield, Virginia. That's just sitting there right now, right? I had some really good conversations with some, the governor there, some city council members on they're wanting me to spend the money to upgrade it and then run it. I'm like, how about y'all spend the money upgrading it? I'll run it. And because, it's just, that's a big ask. And they're like, well, how much money do we need? I'm like, I don't know. I think that this place probably needs $5 million. So I'm being realistic with you because you need to make it a multi-purpose facility. Just a local short track that races one night a week, it's just impossible. You got to have go-karts. You got to have concerts there. You got to have putt courses. You need to make this a multi-use sports facility, not just a racetrack. And so it would be an investment by the city or the state, but I would be happy to do it. I would be happy to be a part of it. I'd be happy to put part of my money in it, but just not the whole thing.
Yeah, on that note, I race every other day. These concerts, even on the dirt track level, up here at Fairbury, these races pay $100,000 to win. What is going on, Denny? Once again, you're showing that you're very smart, you're intelligent. Racetracks cannot make it as a one-lane show now. The cars going around in circle is not enough anymore.
Nope.
So tell me, what's this whole deal? Even at the dirt tracks, Eldora, you got to have music. What's going on there?
The younger generation go to racetracks or they go to sports functions as a social gathering now. People go to the Charlotte Knights game down in Charlotte here, the AAA baseball team. Not one person I know could name one player, but they go there because they can go have a beer with their friends and talk. And like, it's a social gathering. And that's where concerts are really playing a big role in NASCAR weekends and IndyCar weekends, things like that. You want to create a place for people to all gather and congregate. And then on their way out, if they get to see a racing show, maybe they get hooked, right? That's the play in all of this. And so you need to create, and we've seen it really with the racetracks themselves as well. ISC and SMI have really spent a lot of money on making fan midways, right?
St. Louis started it.
Yes, the fan zones around the racetrack itself, because it is more than the NASCAR race itself. I'm sorry, but sitting in an aluminum bleacher for 4 hours watching cars go in circles, that's a lot to ask anyone. But if you can make a day of it or a weekend of it with your family and your kids get to jump in bounce houses. You get to do this 50-50 raffle. You get to do a play practice pit stop. You get to go on iRacing and race on a simulator. That makes for a really fun day. And so I think you can legitimize why you're spending money by going if you get to have all that access.
All right. Last thing. Let me say this a little bit. It's going to take just a little bit. When you and I were at Vegas, we were at the roulette table, and I didn't even mean nothing by it. I said, damn, you got a belly on you. And later on, I learned that I hurt your feelings. And now you've showed me you're chiseled out. Your health is the best. And, you and I have, I was a Toyota guy for 7 years, and you taught me a lot about food, about drinking, what to drink. You've really, really kicked my ass with health. Was this started at Joe Gibbs? Where did you learn so much about goodness, health, wellness?
Well, I think it started when I got into the Cup Series in 2006. It really, those races would take its toll on me. The Xfinity or Busch races, not as much. Like, they're a little shorter. I could handle those. But, like, you get into a 400, 500-mile race, and they were all 500 miles way back in the day. Yeah. Like, it would be Wednesday before I could get my ass off the couch and, like, start walking again. And so I was like, I got to change this. And so I worked with a trainer, and he just tried to help me a little bit with, what to put in your body. And what you can get out of it. So, I really, in the 2008-9 season, I think I lost 50 pounds in like 6 months. It was really, really quick. And I just have kept it somewhat off. I'm starting to get a little bit of that dad belly back now, but I'm in the later years, so fuck it. So whatever.
And feed them beans. So listen, I want to apologize.
But I'm still making sure I'm in good racing shape. That's all that really matters for me.
Yeah, I want to apologize in front of 100,000 people that are going to watch this. I thought it was funny. You didn't. So I apologize. But, man, you listen, you kicked my ass 70 different ways. You passed me up. You are a NASCAR Hall of Famer. You've done it all. And listen, everybody, we are in podcast form. And this is one that you're going to watch, back and forth to work for a week, because it's a long one. But, boy, it's the best. There's going to be a lot of highlights. We are in Spotify and we're in iTunes. And Denny Hamlin, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kenny. I appreciate the invite, and I appreciate you. I mean, you do a lot for the sport, even though your presence at the track isn't as much as it used to be. I love your social channels, love your honesty. I mean, you're kind of the inspiration in which I started vocalizing myself a little bit more. It's like, well, Kenny's not afraid to say it how it is. So,
Well,
so I appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much. And all right. Well, that's it. Until the next Kenny conversation, we'll see y'all later.